can't bet on what those games are going to be like, right? To me, there's still also the question of how good is this Dynamo really? We know the record, we know where they are in comparison to the other Texas teams, but I think we've seen a little bit more out of Austin, out of Dallas. Houston, I think, is still a question mark because of the opponents that they have faced.
Well, and also you do think about how influential of a signing Hector Herrera should be. This is a guy who's going to be trying to get into tip-top form for the World Cup, who's going to come straight from Atletico Madrid to play with the Houston Dynamo. He's not here yet, but that's another big aspect when we talk about the Dynamo ownership group trying to improve this team. But as you said multiple times on the podcast and on other Striker Texas platforms, you do need to get points now because you can't get into a hole and then hope that Ache digs you out of it as a new arrival in the league. So these games do matter.
Because especially, we always hear about this adaptation to MLS, right? And
of course.
Whether it's an excuse or not, we talk about this adaptation. In the case of Herrera, there we go. Red suit's been better.
I don't know if Dynamo fans agree with that.
Probably not. No, look, in the case of Hector Herrera, all right. We're going to stick it to 2 because we don't want Austin fans to get excited. No, look, in the case of Herrera, you don't know how he's going to adapt, how fast he's going to adapt. Obviously, he's a more experienced player. But again, I go back to the example of Sebastian Ferreira,
Sure.
right? The current signing. There's been prior signings in the past for Houston where it's been a struggle to adapt. Some teams have been able to get it done, others haven't. But you know what? In the end, well, let's see what happens here today.
Anything can happen as we're seeing and experiencing. I think we're going to go with the old game show host style where I give it back to you, and we'll see if anybody wins any money today. FC Dallas and Houston have spent a lot of money. We talked about the improvement in the offseason. For FCD, a lot of it has been down to, for me, manager Nico Estevez. There's a story on the Striker Texas that you can check out about how Estevez has been able to change this team around and how he understands the context of this rivalry. Of course, he grew up in Valencia, knows about La Liga rivalries. We talk about derbies and clásicos. Well, Spain is a place that they know those pretty well. But Estevez has said, I understand this game is important to the fans. The players are talking about it in the locker room, about being an important game. But ultimately, this is still 3 points. We're looking to get 3 points at home because that's what we look to do in every single home game. It's been Fortress Frisco once again for Dallas. That's something we didn't see in past seasons where they struggled. It's not necessarily the most intimidating environment in MLS, but there is something about coming here that other teams don't like.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is there's a friction between these two sides, right? And especially between the fans. Like you mentioned, Esteves with the Spanish culture, Nagamura with the Brazilian culture. As a Sao Paulo fan, he knows derbies as well. Quintero, he's experienced the biggest rivalry in Mexico. No, look, I think there's certain elements here to make this the best rivalry or one of the best rivalries in MLS. We know down here in Texas what it means. Dallas versus Houston, Houston versus Dallas, the 2 big metroplexes, the 2 big Texas cities, Cowboys, Texans, Mavericks, Rockets.
Yeah, I mean, the Mavericks playoff game tonight, the Rockets schedule not found. I don't know what's up with that.
Astros,
That's true. All right. Well, we're moving on quickly from baseball. Victor, one thing that did complicate this a little bit is that both teams had those midweek Open Cup contests. How is Houston rotating their squad? How many fresh faces do you think we might see who maybe otherwise would have been in that rotation but played the Cup match or maybe will have limited minutes?
I think you have a fresh squad for Houston. They essentially went big alternate squad on Tuesday. Only Hadebe played, but of course we talked about his suspension. So you're going to have a fresh squad as far as Houston's concerned. You're going to have the best players.
Yeah, Dallas mostly the same. There were minutes for Jesus Ferreira, for Alan Velasco, but I think that was planned by Estevez and his staff to get them a little bit of run, 20, 30 minutes, just to kind of get the legs moving, to play against an opponent like FC Tulsa, like they did, and kind of have some challenge, but overcome that challenge, get that chemistry working, get those touches in the final third that they're missing. It should be a totally full strength, full-fledged FC Dallas as well. Victor, as we start to look toward the starting lineups in this game, which are already out or should be, I'm about to check my phone in a discreet way. What does Houston need to do to have success today? What would mean a successful derby? Is it clásico no se juega, se gana? Do they have to win today, or is it something else?
Yeah, I think you have to go with that mentality. You have to try to win the game. You have to put your best players on the field, I think, for minute 1. And you have to make it sounds obvious, but they need to finish these chances away, right? Sebastian Ferreira, he needs to start stepping up. And I know part of it is in his lack of trying, his lack of confidence. It's the fact that they need to find him more. They need to get him to convert. And ultimately, that's what it's going to take. Darwin Quintero, he probably has playing time last year. Show it. Show what you can do. Fafa Pico, all these guys, right? Last season may have thrived, right? They showed the pride. This season they have the chance to show how good this team really is.
Fafa Pico, former FC Dallas player,
May score again today.
absolutely loves to play against FC Dallas as a Dynamo player, right? Is there what's he got? Is there a chip on his shoulder because he didn't stick with Dallas?
Yeah, I think part of it is he didn't think he was used to his best potential here, and he only got 1 year. And you know what? Houston's gain, right?
Hey, he's been fantastic. He's been one of the better players, I think, in the history of the rivalry who have played for both teams. Brad Davis might be number one, but didn't do that much for FC Dallas. Maxi Arudi, he did a ton for FC Dallas, but had sort of a. He's doing well for Austin, but had a brief stint with the Dynamo. And yeah, I think it's. I think Pico is one of the better players who's played for both sides. Arturo Alvarez, he was good for both teams actually, but got to the Dynamo kind of late in career, and so I think perhaps that wasn't necessarily his best in Houston. So I don't know. What do you think? Am I wrong? Is that recency bias? Maybe Minor Figueroa? Who's the best player who's played for both teams?
You know what? I'm going to give it to the Texas Gunslinger. I'm going to say, no, you know what? Well, you help me clear this up. Depending on Fafa's, he only had 1 year here. So I think you kind of got to have to give it to Maxi. He had a good year last year in terms of just both clubs. There hasn't really been a lot of crossover, which I think is the biggest part of that.
It is a rivalry, and you need some of that. But I think that the players who have played for both, it's interesting to review that history. The other interesting thing, Victor, is on an MLS. FC Dallas holds a series advantage, I got to remind you, by just 2 matches, if I'm not mistaken. But in league play, all even. I don't think that's a factor today on the field, but as we go into Texas Derby 49 and we approach Texas Derby 50, the Dynamo have won really influential games. FC Dallas had that run in 2013 to 2016 when Houston smashed them 5-0, even though FCD ended up winning the Supporters Shield. You know, can we see maybe something that we talk about in 10 years today? It seems like this has been revitalized as we look toward number 49.
Yeah, I think so. I keep saying this can be one of the best rivalries in Major League Soccer, right? But you're not going to get fans caring for teams that aren't trying. And that's what we've had here in Texas with these two teams in the prior years, right? FC Dallas, yeah, cool. Homegrown talent. Were you trying to go for the MLS Cup? You can say so, but now you can say you got a guy like Alan Velasco, you put out the cash, right? Now you're starting to see a different FC Dallas, and that's why I think you're starting to see fans kind of pile up here, right? Houston, in the same sense, haven't been putting the same product on the field. Now they're going out and getting a guy like Herrera. Now we can start to talk about that, and I think organically bring fans in little by little. This rivalry starts to grow with these moments, and then it shouldn't be a surprise if this ends up being one of the best rivalries. It should be one of the best rivalries.
It should be one of the best rivalries, and I think it is because you look at the Houston fans who are here, you look at the Dallas fans who have been so supportive for so long. Yeah, it's not the scenes of a Seattle or a Portland, and I think that comes with what you're saying, that investment, the teams being amazing, playing interesting soccer. We haven't seen them be good essentially at the same time in a long time. This does feel like it might be on the precipice of that, and maybe we get there. We thought this game was going to kick off at 2:08. We haven't seen the lineups yet. I wonder if we're getting an even more delayed kick. We should have asked our friend Danny from Tulene. He knows everything that's actually going on. But who knows what TV wants to do. We still got no lineups. I'm doing the same thing you are at home. I'm scrolling, checking to see before it comes out. And it could be wrong. Within 30 seconds, what's your starting lineup for the Dynamo?
It has to be Steve Clark in goal. You're going to back four of, I imagine, Dorsey, Bartlow, Parker, Lundqvist. You got in the middle Quintero, Carrasquilla, and Matias Vera as the six. And then up top, you're going with the front three, your best front three, I think, in Tyler Patcher, Fafa Pico on the wings, and you got your main man, Sebastian Ferrer, right in the middle.
For FC Dallas, I'm expecting Martin Pies, who I profiled on the Striker Texas, which you can subscribe to support this, to support us, to support the work of covering soccer in Texas like it gets covered all around the country, all around the world. We're trying to do that here in the Lone Star State because we do believe this is the best rivalry in MLS. Martin Pies in goal. I think you see the center back duo of Matt Hedges and Jose Martinez return. On right back, I'm expecting Nanu coming back from an injury. Ima Tamasi played Cup during the week. Marco Farfan as the left back. I think that the 6 is the biggest question mark for me. Facundo Quiñones started in games where FC Dallas wants to messy things up, get a little dirty. But Edwin Cerrillo, who's been the other option there, started and played that cup match during the week. I think Cerrillo might get the nod again. He's young. He's got fresh, he can go long. Got that sort of young kid mentality. I'll stick him in as the 6. Cervenia and Paxton Pomical, I think, again, as the midfielder. And the favorites, F.A.V. Ferreira in the middle, Alan Velasco and Paul Arriola as the FC Dallas starting trio. That's what I'm expecting. Nico Estevez has shown this season that he doesn't really love to modify his lineup. It seems like he's got a group that he sticks with, but it's led to consistent performances for FCD. I think Nagamura is sort of the same.
Yeah, same thing, barring maybe an injury here or there at the start of the season. But I think overall we've seen the core group of players that he wants to play with. And, well, let's get to it. Let's see who gets it here today.
We got the lineup. Let's see if Victor went 11 for 11. Steve Clark is in goal for the Houston Dynamo. Adam Lundqvist as the left back. Dorsey as the right back. It's Bartlow and Parker in center back as expected, with Coco Carrasquilla, Matias Vera, and Darwin Quintero forming that midfield.
If you're a Striker subscriber, you already had it on the preview.
It was exactly what Victor Araiza said. And if you missed it on there, come on, subscribe. But Papa Pico, Sebastian Ferreira, and Tyler Pasher as the front 3. Pasher's an interesting player, Victor, because the guy who was a Canadian international, then got hurt, not involved in that fantastic World Cup run that John Herdman's side had. But he is a guy who seems to give a little bit of a different dimension to the Houston Dynamo attack. And, maybe he's going to try and fight to keep that starting spot. How do you see him, and how do you like his chances to stay as that winger?
Yeah, injury is his biggest enemy so far, but he obviously has a bit of desire. I think he still has to go another level because World Cup, it's once in a lifetime as we see FC Dallas coming out here and fans clapping. He has to go all out, is my view, right? I mean, you only get World Cup once. Somebody has to advise this kid, go for it all. Obviously, like I said, maybe injury is a little bit on his mind, but got to give your best here and make it happen at the end of the year.
I think he probably already knows he has to go for it.
Well, somebody needs to remind him.
We'll see if Tyler Pasher sends a reminder to John Herdman that he's out there, that he's playing well in MLS today. Send a reminder to Paulo Nakamura that he deserves to keep that starting spot. To me, he's an interesting player because, we kind of know what we're going to get from Quintero. Ferreira, we're still waiting on him to adapt, but Pasher, we've seen good, we've seen less good. We'll see what Tyler Pasher we get today. As I mentioned, the Dynamo lineup is out. FC Dallas, I think, is still holding off. They are on the field now. As you mentioned, fans were clapping, applauding their entrance. We got a new haircut, I think, for Paul Arriola. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think we got a new haircut there. And they got the warm-ups going on. The Dynamo yet to emerge. Are they playing some mind games?
They are not.
I don't think so either. I think everyone is awaiting this start on TUDN. We're awaiting it as well. In the meantime, you can check out the Striker Texas and read a number of features on the Texas Derby. Victor with coverage from Houston, talking about the understanding of what this Texas Derby means to the fans. And we also worked on a combined preview, spotlighting a few matches. Again, predicting the starting 11. 11 for 11 over here. We'll see how I do when the FC Dallas lineup is out. Also that Martin Pais profile, a piece on Nico Estevez. Also understanding the rivalry matches he's coached in the past. And I actually heard from Franco Jara during the week, FC Dallas forward who scored in the cup match. He's not comfortable necessarily with his role as a substitute. It's going to be difficult for him to surge into the starting 11. But at the same time, you look and he's a guy who's making a whole lot of money. But if you take that out of it, which, money's everything. You can't take it out of the equation. He's a great role player for FCD if he accepts that role. If he wants to keep being that substitute, keep coming in, playing positive minutes. I think if FCD is trailing or if the game is tied in minute 60, minute 70, we're seeing him today. He's getting a lot, Victor, but he is a nice piece for FCD.
No, and that's what you want. You want to be able to go to your bench and have players that can add to the game, right? Whether it be experienced players or whether it be younger players. That's why I think if Houston can add a little bit more pieces, man, they're in business.
They absolutely would be. FC Dallas roster or lineup still not out. I want to go until we get the lineup, but maybe they're trying to keep us on it. Maybe they're enjoying the stream. I don't know. They did give us a retweet, which we appreciate. Shout out to Eddie and the FC Dallas social media team. We might be able to see who the starting 11 is from how they're warming up. Yeah. No, it doesn't look like they've formed in that group yet. No, it doesn't look like they've formed into the starting 11. Some deep stretches from Paul Arriola, who is coming off that injury he suffered with the national team. He's a guy who... All right, let's hear their welcome. for the Houston Dynamo.
The depths of Toyota Stadium looks like.
How many? There are two supporter buses that came up from the Dynamo and a staff bus. Is that right? What should the traveling fans look like today?
Well, you can see some of them over there.
It's not on the camera, Victor.
There should be a couple hundred fans here leaving home happy, maybe. We'll see.
All right, let's do it. What's your prediction for the game?
All right, taking a couple of things into account, I think Houston can get away here. I think what I predicted was a 2-2 draw. I'm gonna stick with that. I gave FC Dallas some credit, but it depends. This Jekyll and Hyde Dynamo. It's been the story over the years. Who's gonna show up? Are they gonna live up to their potential here today, or are they still going to repeat some of the same mistakes?
Our friend Theo Lloyd Hughes, manning things back at Striker HQ. He's British and said a lot of drink on those buses. We would say drinks, but we'll see how Houston fans.
Is he on the bus? Is Theo on the bus?
I think he just has heard reports, but we'll see if Houston fans are vibrant, if they're loud,
with the surge.
if they're loud, and I'm expecting we see a good crowd. Hopefully, there have been some incidents in the past that we hope are not repeated. I think it's going to be good. I'm predicting a good vibe today. I'm predicting a good atmosphere. I'm predicting eventually the FC Dallas starting 11 gets tweeted. But right now, I am predicting a 2-0 victory for FC Dallas, Victor. I think FC Dallas is going to be able to take advantage of Ethan Barlow and some of the inconsistencies maybe in the connection between the back line and the central midfield. I think they've been good for most of the season, but I think with FC Dallas attacking trio, finding that rhythm and getting more touches than they got against the New York Red Bulls, I think they'll be able to find the back of the net. Defense has been the strength of Nico Esteves' team, even though he's a quote-unquote attacking manager. That core of Matt Hedges, Jose Martinez, Marco Farfan have been really solid. The right back has been a bit of a question mark. It's not necessarily great against the Dynamo team that does have some strength on that side, but ultimately I think that FC Dallas is able to take advantage today of the red card to Teenage Adebe and find 2 goals.
Fafa is sort of playing on the wrong side, so there you go.
I expect we'll see some, movement. I think we'll see some things,
You'll see some shifting.
But until then, we're going to shift into game preparation mode, read our preview coverage on the Striker Texas. We're going to wrap up the stream right now. We'll be back 15, 30, 45 minutes after the game. We got to get our stories written and sent, and then we're going to come say what's up to you once again from this spot atop the supporters section at Toyota Stadium. But until then, for Victor Araiza, I'm John Arnold from Toyota Stadium. Hope to have you following along during the